Chair, the meeting is now being recorded.
Thank you. I would like to call the regular meeting of December 11th, 2023 to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Commissioner Benninger,
Present.
Commissioner Escamilla,
Here.
Commissioner Leo,
Here.
Commissioner Ramos, Commissioner Wu,
Present.
Vice Chair Oliva,
Here.
Chair Pham.
Here.
Chair, quorum has been reached at 5:38.
Thank you. Before we begin, I would like to remind my fellow commissioners to turn your microphone on when speaking and off when not speaking. And when speaking, please place the microphone about 4 inches away from you. Members of the public may attend Plan Commission meetings in person or virtually via Zoom. I now invite the Commission Secretary to describe the way the public can access and participate in the meetings.
This meeting is being live streamed via our portal at www.sana-ana.primegov.com/public/portal and to YouTube at www.youtube.com/City of Santa Ana videos. If you would like to provide public comment, you may do so in the following ways. Join the meeting via Zoom. Enter meeting ID number 875-3728-7813. When the item that you would like to comment on is being discussed, select the hand icon to let us know you would like to speak. You will be called upon by the name you entered. You can also join the meeting by calling 669-900-6833. Enter meeting ID number 875-3728-7813. When the item that you would like to comment on is being discussed, press 9 to let us know you would like to speak. You will be called upon by the last 3 digits of your phone number. After you are called upon, you may press 6 to unmute yourself. For those who are attending this meeting in person and would like to provide public comment, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it into the secretary. All speakers will have 3 minutes to speak. I will alert you when your time is up.
Moving on to public comments on non-agenda or non-public hearing items. Madam Secretary, does anyone wish to speak on any non-public hearing items?
If you're attending this meeting in person and would like to comment on non-agenda or non-public hearing items, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it into the secretary. If you are participating via Zoom and would like to comment on non-agenda or non-public hearing items, please select the hand icon and unmute yourself. If you are calling in and would like to comment on non-agenda or non-public hearing items, please dial 9 and then 6 to unmute yourself. Chair, we do have in-person comments. You have the card and we have some comments via Zoom.
Thank you. Ms. Sherry Mink, please come forward.
Sherry Menke, 1032 West Park Lane. Good evening, and thank you for being here and for studying the issue of short-term rentals tonight. In 2015, the City Council unanimously voted to not extend a moratorium on STRs. They also asked the staff to conduct a study on this issue. Here we are 8 years later, and it's finally happening. Thank you. I was surprised that this item made it back on the agenda, even as a study session, without promise notification to those of us who are invested in this issue. But nevertheless, thank you. And as this study session unfolds, my ask is that myself and others, small business owners in this city, be part of the process. For those of you who don't know me, my story, my husband and I bought our home in Morrison Park in 2014 when my husband was called to be the pastor at St. Peter Lutheran Church in the Willard neighborhood. After moving into our home, we shortly learned that one of our neighbors was renting out 2 of her rooms as short-term rental units. I wasn't thrilled, but decided to observe and see what it would be like. It was life-changing. I met people from all over the world. Travelers brought language, culture, diversity to myself and to my neighborhood. And it also brought me much needed income. My neighbor and I became good friends, and I was a mom of 4 with 1 on the way. It was a very difficult time to find a job. My neighbor hired me to clean and help her co-host when she was away. It was because of this experience and using STRs myself that when my husband was called to serve at a new church, we wanted to make our home in Santa Ana a short-term rental. We started our small business in 2017 and applied for a residential rental business license, which I renew every year. This is still the only home that my husband and I own, and we stay there regularly. We support other local businesses in the city, like housekeepers, gardeners, plumbers, restaurants. And in 2022, I created a petition that 13 of my neighbors signed, including every person that share our property line, stating that they know our property is an STR and they are supportive of us. I would like there to be a taxed and regulated program for STRs. I have met with many leaders in surrounding cities who were instrumental in creating programs for the city of Huntington Beach, Long Beach, and the city of Orange. All of these cities have successful taxed and regulated STR programs, and they bring huge revenue, culture, language, diversity, and beauty to these cities.
Your time's up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And our Zoom. comments?
Wesley Mank, can you please unmute yourself?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, your time will start now.
Hi, my name is Wesley Menke. I'm the spouse to the wonderful person who just spoke, Sherry. I own a home in Morrison Park on Park Lane. This is land that originally belonged to the Tongva people, and it's with great humility that we are able to be a part of this community. And thank you to all of the people there serving the city. We appreciate you. The last correspondence I had from city staff was that they intended to not work with us, and the reason stated was because of a lack of housing stock in the city. The problem of not having enough housing stock is because currently short-term rentals are not regulated. There is no ban. The moratorium was permanently voted down in 2015. The code is currently silent. The website is currently silent. And if I'm not mistaken, from what we hear in our network of STR owner operators, there is costly litigation draining the city's resources, of which we, myself, are not a part currently. We don't want to be. We'd like to work out a solution in cooperation with the city. The solution is to regulate short-term rentals, set a percentage of housing stock that can be allowed. This could be less than 1%. Levy a transient occupancy tax, a TOT tax. Create a permitting process. Prioritize owner-occupied residences, which allow families economically on the edge to pay their mortgage by maybe renting out one room in their house as a short-term rental. Also prioritize sole property owners, such as my wife and I. We only own one piece of property. Discourage institutional investors. They have other ways they can make money. Also work with folks like us to build accessory dwelling units. We would be happy to do this on our property if you could streamline the process or help us create a duplex such as was allowed by SB 9. Therefore, we could create long-term rentals alongside the short-term rentals on our property, mixed use. Thank you again for your service, and we are looking forward to working with you. Have a good meeting.
Thank you. Is there an additional comment?
We don't have any additional comments.
Thank you. Moving on to the consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve item A, minutes from November 13th and
I
excused
move A
absences?
and B.
I second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wu and a second by Commissioner Benninger. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Commissioner Benninger,
Aye.
Commissioner Escamilla,
Aye.
Commissioner Leo,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramos, Commissioner Wu,
Aye.
Vice Chair Oliva. Aye. Chair Pham.
Aye.
Motion approved by majority vote with Commissioner Ramos absent.
That concludes the consent calendar items. Moving on to the public hearing. I'll now review the process for public hearings so that everyone knows what to expect. Staff will provide a presentation and answer questions from the commission. The public hearing will then be open. The applicant will then be given the opportunity to speak, limited to 15 minutes. Members of the public may be given the opportunity to comment, limited to 3 minutes. Applicants will then be given the opportunity to respond to comments made by the public, limited to 5 minutes. The public hearing will then be closed. Discussion will return to the commission with formal action taken to approve, deny, or continue review of the application. Please consider following suggestions when organizing your comments. Please state your name, address, which is voluntary. State whether you support, oppose, or are neutral to the proposal. Your statement should include all pertinent facts within your knowledge. Please note, decisions on the matter is final unless appealed within 10 days by any interested individual or party. Recommendations on this item will be forwarded to the city council at a later date for final determination. Moving on to item number 1, please note no action is needed for item 1 as the request has been withdrawn from the applicant. Moving on to item number 2. This is the time and place for tentative tract map number 2023-02 for the property located at 2300 South Red Hill Avenue, located within the specific development number 96 SD-96 zoning district. Before we begin, do any of the commissioners have anything they wish to disclose with regard to this item? Seeing none, Jerry Guerra will now provide a brief presentation. Jerry.
Thank you, Chairman, and good evening, Commissioners. This item is regarding tenant tract map number 2023-02, located at 2300 South Red Hill Avenue in Council Ward 4. The applicant is requesting approval of this item in order to allow the subdivision of 2 existing lots into 4 lots and 1100 residential condominium lots at a mixed-use development currently under construction. Staff is recommending that the Plan Commission adopt a resolution approving tenant tract map number 2023-02 as conditioned for the following reasons. The project site is located at the northwest corner of Red Hill Avenue and Warner Avenue as depicted in the aerial view on the presentation to the right. The general plan land use destination of the property is District Center Medium, and the zoning is specific development number 96. The site is surrounded by the city of Tustin to the north and east, and industrial and office uses to the south and west in the city of Santa Ana. On September 15, 2020, the City Council approved ordinance number NS 2995, establishing specific development number 6 for the area, which allows for a mixed-use development consisting of 80,000 square feet of leasable commercial space, 1,100 residential units, 2,169 parking spaces, and roughly about 5.7 acres of on-site open space and amenities. The project is currently under construction and is anticipated to be completed by 2025. This is a street view of the current project, displaying currently buildings 1 and 2. As mentioned, the applicant is requesting approval of tenant tract map number 2023-02 to subdivide 2 existing lots into 4 lots and 1,100 residential condominium lot units. Lot 1 will consist of approximately 4.26 acres and contains 36,000 square feet of commercial square footage and 280 units and is shown in orange as displayed in the presentation. Lot 2 will consist of approximately 2.96 acres and will contain 24,000 square feet of commercial space and 244 units and is shown in purple. Lot 3 will consist of 4 acres and will contain 20,000 square feet of commercial space and 322 residential units, and that lot is shown in green. And then lastly, Lot 4 will consist of 4 acres, is the only lot that actually does not contain any commercial, and it does have a total of 254 units, and that is being shown as blue in the map. So essentially, lot 1 and 2 are currently 1 lot, and lot 3 and 4 are currently another lot. So as mentioned, the applicant is proposing to subdivide those 2 lots into 4 and allow for the residential units that are currently being built to be sold as condominium units. Subdivision requests are governed by Chapter 34 of the Santa Ana Municipal Code and the State Subdivision Map Act. The subdivision is consistent with the general plan. It's also consistent with specific development number 96 and the State Subdivision Map Act. Policy 1.2 of the general plan land use element supports innovative development policies to expand home ownership opportunities at all income levels. Policy 4.7 encourages the development of mixed income developments with mixed housing types to create inclusive communities and economically diverse neighborhoods. And lastly, policy 2.5 of the housing element supports diverse types, prices, and sizes of all housing. Then lastly, as mentioned, the recommendation is approval with conditions of approval. One of those conditions being requesting the submittal of covenant conditions and restrictions to ensure that the final map as well as the common areas will be maintained in accordance with the Santa Ana Municipal Code. In accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act, the project is within the scope of the environmental impact report that was prepared for the initial project. As such, no additional analysis is requested at this time or needed at this time, and a notice of determination will be filed for this project. There's also no additional fiscal impacts associated with this action. And with that, staff recommendation is that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving tenant tract map number 2023-02 as conditioned. I'm here to answer any questions. The applicant's also available for any questions.
Thank you, Jerry. Does the commission have any comments for Jerry at the moment?
A couple of questions. I assume the subdivision is to allow to sell these parcels off.
The request is correct to allow for the ability to sell off those 4 parcels separately, but there is not currently an intent by the applicant. It's more of a financing mechanism and to be able to sell the residential units for condo purposes in the future. At this moment, there isn't an intent to be able to sell them for condo purposes.
And how, in the common areas, how are they going to be protected? Because I just can see a few fight down the way if you have all different ownership, different parcels.
Commissioner, thanks for that question. That is why we're requesting those CC&Rs, and we'll be adding language in there to ensure that those common areas are maintained by the property owners.
Thank you.
Commissioner Escamilla.
I think you had already answered this, but just confirming, there is no mixed use requirement under the SD 96. So just if those parcels are independent, they don't require any mixed use, it can still be used fully as multifamily housing without the requirement.
That is correct, Commissioner Escamilla. When the project was entitled, only the first 1, 2, and 3 parcels were required to have, or they were entitled to have commercial spaces, while the rear portion, lot 4, was only meant for residential at that time.
Okay, and not necessarily a question for staff, but when the applicant comes up, I guess, the way that I envision this is theoretically adding condominium units on average are going to be a little bit more affordable, not quite super affordable if these are brand new developments, but if the applicant, when they come up, they can kind of walk us through the life cycle, what they expect the life cycle to be on these units when they might become online for sale. I think that's also important to note as we have this discussion. Thank you.
Commissioner Leo.
Yeah, as we go down this road, in my mind, the more permanent the housing in condominiums and getting away from apartment rentals, even though we need that as well. It sets up a community, it gets people vested in Santa Ana. So whatever we can do to encourage that through this process, we can do that. I remember when the condominiums were built in the corner of MacArthur and Main. That set up a community at the south end of town, diagonally across from Sandpoint. The more we encourage condominiums, the more we get people vested and ownership interest in Santa Ana, therefore not only participate in what goes on here, but also create some permanency instead of, people coming, renting for a few months or 6 months or a year and then leaving. And I think the more we create that neighborhood type structure, whether it's condominiums or homes, I think it's a positive for the city. So as we go through these processes, it sounds like we're kind of close to the top of the life cycle here on housing. We're going to get maybe some apartments being converted. If that is the case, we should encourage it and figure out a way to make sure that it becomes a neighborhood as a part of the city.
Commissioner Wu.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure staff did look into conditioning that will ensure access during emergency ingress and egress and because the middle property, if you go back, looks kind of landlocked, but it could be, yeah, parcel 2. And but it may be just because we don't see the detail.
Commissioner Wood, that was initially analyzed and it is a condition of approval as part of the overall development when it was initially entitled. So they will maintain reciprocal access agreement in place for fire as well as for PD.
Thanks
And
for
truck
doing your
service.
homework.
Vice Chair.
Thank you for the presentation. I did have a question about the home ownership aspect of this project. How many of the 1,100 units would be for home ownership?
Commissioner Oliva, thanks for the question. I'll refer that matter to the applicant, but as mentioned, at this point, the applicant is just requesting for the entitlement to be able to allow for future potential the sale of the condominiums. I don't know if they have an exact number.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. I'll now open the public hearing. Would the applicant like to come forward to speak?
Hi, my name is Jude. I'm with Greystar on behalf of the applicant. Thank you guys for considering this and I can answer any of the questions. To start with your question about the life cycle of this, we actually don't have any intention to convert to condos. Again, it's just to future-proof it if the market in the city that is something that they want for this neighborhood. And I believe there's a condition where we cannot convert for 10 years after this project is completed. So we will just go off of that and at 10 years, reanalyze and see what the market is looking for and what the city wants.
Right. I'll go down. Commissioner Benninger, do you have any comments for the applicant?
Well, going back to not going to condos, and do you have any low incoming units in this?
No, we don't. We paid an in lieu fee in 2021. So we don't have any currently.
Thank you.
Commissioner Escamilla?
I guess just now's an update and just chance for the general public since we saw the construction. What's the anticipated, I guess, construction timeline that we're looking at now?
So the first building will deliver actually summer of 2024, and then the last building will be delivered summer of
Commissioner Leo? No comments? Commissioner Wu?
In terms of your mixed use, what is the anticipated business that you'll be developing for?
We're actually working with the lab group. They're the ones that have done the lab in Costa Mesa and the camp. So they're currently working through different designs. We've worked closely with them to design the space to accommodate what their tenants typically look for. So they're currently going to market. They've done all the marketing materials. So I think at the beginning of the new year, we'll have a better insight. But we plan to have some sort of health, wellness, restaurants, just some attractive elements to the neighborhood and to bring make it a lively neighborhood.
So as our economy is in change and office space is diminishing, that is not what you're developing your business park to. You're looking at something beyond that. Sort of mixed use entertainment, live and work kind of thing.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
all of our buildings have co-work spaces within them, and then we've also considered for the retail portion to have some sort of co-work if, again, the market needs it at the time when this goes to lease up. But yes, you are correct. It's more lifestyle. Fitness is kind of what we're heavy on. Something. Yeah.
Yeah, so don't have moved down to Florida. Thank you very much.
Vice Chair.
Thank you for being here today. I same question that I asked Jerry. Is there a number for home ownership yet or no?
I don't believe so, but it would be by building or by parcel. So anywhere from 200 to 300, depending on how many of the parcels they choose to convert in the future. No set direction just yet.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. No comments for myself. We'll go bring it back to the Madam Secretary. Has there been any comments, written communication from the public? Thank you.
We have not received public comment prior to the 3:30 deadline. If you're attending this meeting in person and would like to comment on this item, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it into the secretary. If you're participating via Zoom and would like to comment on this item, please select hand icon and unmute yourself. If you're calling in and would like to comment on this item, please dial 9 and then 6 to unmute yourself. Chair, we don't have any speakers.
Thank you. The public hearing is now closed. I'll bring it back to the commission. Is there a motion or would you like to discuss this a bit further?
I'd like to adopt a motion approving tenant track map number
I just-
2023-02. After Carl has a comment. Yeah.
It just kind of struck me, and I don't know whether it's too late to ask this question or not, but back in the 90s, a lot of places start off as apartments and converted to condos. And with that transition, a lot of the condos had troubles with the water lines not being separate, being joint, hot water being joint. Are we gonna have the same thing with this project too, that when it goes to condos, that they're gonna have that separation so that you can actually have an isolation?
They will be required to have separate utility connections for each residential unit.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Will, would you like to finish?
Yeah, I moved the motion for, I just need a second.
I'll go ahead and second. Oh,
Commissioner Escamilla.
okay. I'll go ahead and second Commissioner Wu.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wu and a second by Commissioner Escamilla. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Commissioner Benninger,
Aye.
Commissioner Escamilla,
Aye.
Commissioner Leo,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramos, Commissioner Wu,
Aye.
Vice Chair Oliva,
Aye.
Chair Pham.
Aye.
Motion approved by majority vote with Commissioner Ramos absent.
Thank you. Thank you, Jerry. We're moving on to item number 3. This is a time and place for amendment application number 2023-04 and zoning ordinance amendment number 2023-03 for the property located at 601 North Fairview Street, located within the light industrial M1 zoning district. Before we begin, do any of the commissioners have anything they wish to disclose with regard to this item? Commissioner Leo?
Yes, I spoke to the applicant on Friday briefly, and then I want to thank the committee secretary. I was able to review the public comments that you sent us today from the opposition. So thank you.
Seeing no other disclosure, Fernanda Arias will now provide a brief presentation. Fernanda?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. We have tonight an amendment application number 2023-04 and zoning ordinance amendment number 2023-03 for the property located at 601 North Fairview Street. That's within Ward 5. The applicant, Vista Charter School, is requesting approval of the amendment application number 2023-04 and zoning ordinance amendment number 2023-03 to rezone the property located at 601 North Fairview Street from light industrial M1 to specific development number 82 or SC 82, and amend the text in SC 82 to accommodate the conversion of an existing 5,837 square foot industrial building into an administrative office building. Staff is recommending that the Planning Commission recommend that the City Council adopt an ordinance approving amendment application number 2023-04 and adopt an ordinance approving zoning ordinance amendment number 2023-03 as conditioned. The site has a general plan land use designation of industrial flex medium or flex 1.5. The existing zoning is light industrial or M1, and the project is requesting to rezone to SC 82. The site is surrounded by the Pacific Electric right-of-way for the OC streetcar and the school district offices to the east and to the north. The Vista Heritage Charter School and industrial businesses to the south, and Lydia Romero Cruz Academy to the west. The lot size is 0.9 acres or 39,437 square feet. On October 2008, City Council adopted an ordinance allowing the rezoning of the property located at 2501 West 5th Street from light industrial to SC 82. In January of 2020, City Council adopted an ordinance amending SC 82 to allow schools as a permissible use, adopt a set of operational standards for the school, allow the school to expand to 66,000 square feet in size, and to allow a maximum student enrollment of 870 students. Then in February of 2023, the applicant submitted a development project review application that was deemed completed in November of this year. Following the completion of the development project review, the applicant submitted the amendment application and the zoning ordinance amendment for Planning Commission and City Council consideration. The project is requesting that the property at 601 North Fairview Street is rezoned from M1 to SC 82 to help facilitate the conversion of an existing auto repair building into an administrative office for Vista Heritage School. Additionally, SC 82 will be amended to allow outdoor play area and update the list of allowed uses to be consistent with the general plan land use designation and the West Santa Ana Boulevard focused area. The overall site and building improvements will include an exterior facade remodel for the existing building at 601 North Fairview, to reconfigure the floor plan to allow for the administrative office, the construction of a new 2,297 square foot garden that will be adjacent to the administrative office, installing a fence along the northern property line and along the Pacific Electric right-of-way for the OC Street Cart, a new outdoor play area adjacent to Vista Heritage Charter School, and relocating 51 parking spaces from parcel 2 to parcel 4. This shows the site as it currently appears. This slide contains the site plan illustrating the demolition of an existing industrial building that was permitted as a separate building permit and the removal of the 51 parking spaces. The entire site has a total of 293 parking spaces, which coincides with previous entitlements that were issued in 2008 and 2020, as mentioned in the project's background. This slide illustrates a large demolition plan that identifies the industrial building that was demolished and the parking spaces that will be removed. This is the proposed site plan with the new area that will be the outdoor play area, the garden adjacent to the office, and the parking lot. This is an enlarged site plan illustrating the new parking, the converted building into office, and the garden. The new parking includes 43 parking spaces along the north and 20 parking spaces along the west. This slide contains an enlarged plan illustrating the pickup and drop-off circulation for the kids at the school. These are the proposed elevations. And this is the proposed rendering. The zoning ordinance amendment analysis considers circulation and parking management, the proposed outdoor play area, and the new proposed administrative office, student enrollment, and the existing industrial uses. The circulation and parking management plan take into account the total available parking, on-site circulation, and drop-off and pickup circulation. Additionally, the circulation and parking management plan illustrate the school bus pickup and drop-off that will take place within the parking lot that's located in front of Vista Heritage Charter School. Lastly, the plan is designed to accommodate the existing school population to ensure that there are no traffic conflicts within the adjacent properties. The outdoor play area will be adjacent to Vista Heritage Charter School, and it will be located within an enclosed area to not disturb the commercial or industrial uses during regular business hours, and to not disturb residential uses between the hours of 8 p.m. and 7 a.m. Additionally, the outdoor play area will not be used outside of the school's regular hours that are Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. And the noise generated is not significant enough to adversely affect nearby sensitive receptors. The administrative office will not increase parking demand as the parking requirement for office is 3 parking spaces per 1,000 square feet, which is less than the existing auto repair that was there that required 5 parking spaces per 1,000 square feet. Additionally, the office uses will not increase the trip generations during peak hours. The student enrollment will remain at the maximum of 870 students, and the current enrollment is at 840. Lastly, the permitted list of uses in SE 82 contains various industrial uses, which are no longer consistent with the general plan and land use designation and the focus area. The proposed amendment will update the list of permissible uses per zones, which will be zones 1 through 3, and establish consistency with the Flex 1.5 general plan land use designation and the focus area. The amendment application analysis considered permissible uses, SC 82 boundaries, negative impacts, and consistency with the general plan. SC 82 permissible uses encompass industrial, school, and church uses. Expanding the SC 82 will accommodate additional administrative office use at 601 North Fairview Street. The zoning will repurpose the existing industrial building, previously an auto repair business, into an administrative office space. The amendment application seeks to enable the existing building operation as an administrative office without constraint, but limited to parcel 4. The zone change is not anticipated to exacerbate traffic flow, parking demands, or noise impacts, and it's consistent with the goals and policies of the general plan, as it would not be detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare of the community. This slide illustrates the proposed zone change from M1 to SD 82. Pursuant to California Environmental Quality Act and the CEQA guidelines, the project is exempt from further review per section 15301 for existing facilities, class 1, and per section 15183, projects consistent with the community plan, general plan, or zoning of the CEQA guidelines. Notice of exemption, environmental review number 2023-40 will be filed for the project. In terms of economic impact, the project has generated a total of 156 temporary employment opportunities, and it's anticipated to create 10 permanent employment positions upon completion. Additionally, the applicant will pay approximately $46,235 in entitlements, plan check, and permit fees to the city. Lastly, there is no fiscal impact associated with the action. With that, staff is requesting that the Planning Commission recommend that the City Council adopt an ordinance approving amendment application number 2023-4 and an ordinance approving zoning ordinance amendment number 2023-03 as condition. And I'm open for questions.
Thank you, Fernanda. Does the commission have any comments for Fernanda at the moment? Commissioner Benninger?
Yes, I also had the opportunity to look at Ms. Cannell's notes, letter. Is there any validity to that as far as these past agreements on parking agreements in this area?
Validity to?
To what you wrote in her letter about past agreements of parking, and thus this project would be interfering with that.
So the site does have existing parking agreements and reciprocal agreements. The latest agreement that was recorded has an exhibit that illustrates common space for each building. I can show you. So the building where Vista is and the Temple Calvario and the industrial buildings have separated common space. And the exhibit is not on here, but the exhibit shows that there's a dividing line in between these two. And on this side is common space for these two buildings. And past this line here is common space for these buildings. Correct.
Commissioner Benninger, do you have any additional comments?
I'm just thinking, a couple of, if I understand this correct, you're actually giving up parking spaces, but getting parking spaces back, correct? It's just that the parking spaces are in a different parcel of the land.
Right, so per entitlements from 2008, there's supposed to be a minimum of 291 parking spaces on site, including the entire site that's shown on this slide. And they currently have 293 parking spaces.
Do we know on an average day how many of those parking spaces are used? I imagine the church, it does change on weekends, but
Yeah, they did submit a parking study that indicated they have sufficient parking. During the weekends, I know the church is supposed to have approximately 700 parking spaces, but they have agreements with other sites in the nearby area. So not just this site, but I believe across the street to the south, they have agreements with them, and possibly with the Santa Ana Unified School District. They also have an agreement with them.
this may be a question for the applicant more, but where are the kids playing now?
I'm sorry.
Where are the kids playing now? Where are they getting exercise now?
The operational standards say that they're supposed to be indoors.
Thank you.
Commissioner Escamilla?
Yeah, I think I wanted to double down on Commissioner Benjer's questions around the CCNR. So in a situation like this, obviously we had our own interpretation of what is currently in effect. And I guess I'm just trying to speculate here. At the root of this, there seems to be a disagreement as to which CCNR is in effect. And the one that we have, according to our records, indicates that there is no requirement, or sorry, no prohibition around fencing and closing off of common open space. Was that an okay interpretation, or is there something else that I'm missing?
This question was also raised during the development project review regarding the fence. So I did ask the applicant to clarify that for me, and they provided information. So the fence doesn't, because the CCNRs mentioned to not build a fence to block traffic or pedestrian access, which is, I think here, you can see that the fence doesn't block access. Doesn't block access in the play area. So there's still an opening, and there's pedestrian doors to allow for access to the site. So the applicant clarified that the proposed fences don't violate the CCNRs.
All right, and okay, so I think I'm starting to get the picture a little bit better. The fencing is only going along the playfield and play yard areas then, that's indicated?
Correct.
Okay, and I just wanted to kind of clarify, if you can go to the full site map, the 11 letters or the 11 signatories that signed on in opposition, would they be then all the units to the, I guess, bottom left-hand corner?
Correct.
Okay. And is that 11 out of 11 units that are signing on in opposition, or the remaining units, or do we know what percentage of kind of opposition letters we've received from the other tenants there?
I'm not sure the total number of opposition. What I do know is that this is a third of the CCNRs. The school is another third, and Templo Calvario is another third. So, if all the property owners for the industrial businesses have opposition, that would be 1/3 of the entire CCNRs.
So it's based off of square or leasable square footage rather than individual units in that CCNR?
I believe so. The applicant can clarify.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Commissioner Leo?
Yeah, I had a more of a general question, since with the OC streetcar, there were several references in your presentation that talked about non-consistent uses in the SD. What is the process in which those fade out and the rest of the SD becomes consistent with the plan? As these businesses, they have a life cycle, whether they make it or not. When they go out of business, or they close their doors, or they move, what is the process with those parcels or those locations to become compliant with the SD? Because as you can see, over time, you have Temple Calvario has been there quite some time. School's been there now, what, 8 years, if I remember the paperwork. There appears to be a request to expand. So you can see there's a trend in this SD of slowly trending in a certain direction, and now we're gonna have the streetcar. So what I'm wondering is, what is the process? Because this is not gonna be the only parcel that's gonna go in a different direction. How does it work? As the city, how do we bring these properties into consistency, say, with the SD? Because this is not gonna be the only SD along the OC streetcar. So I'm just wondering, just more for my own edification, is how does this process work over time?
Thank you, Commissioner Leo, for that question. The general plan as adopted in 2022 established the overall land use policy throughout the city. This is part of the area, and it's also part of the streetcar focus area. Not only does this help to look at what type of uses, does the general plan facilitate us the ability to look at what type of uses that can be permitted in the existing area, but also in terms of the future land uses. Through the implementation process, we have a legal non-conforming code status that requires essentially a blackout period. If a business ceases to exist for a certain amount of time, an example for a year, that business, if it's not consistent with the land use policy or the ordinance, it is considered abated. So there is a grandfathering in of existing legal non-conforming uses if it continues to be used in a lawfully manner. But if this use ceases to exist anywhere between 6 months to a year, based on the type of uses, it would be considered legal non-conforming. In addition to that, we also have codes that was recently implemented as part of the Environmental Justice Initiative, is that if businesses that are considered to be certain class of use, such as noxious use, there are additional steps that we can take to also address the abatement and the nonconformity of the use.
Thank you for the explanation.
Commissioner Wu.
I drove through the area one night with a neighborhood representative, just so, because I couldn't visualize everything. So some of my questions going to be based on the observation. Currently the fencing for the community garden and the play yard, is that still going to stay where it is?
Yeah, as shown on this plan, the play area is going to be enclosed by the gate.
Right,
and-
the plan there doesn't really tell you in
Oh,
detail
I'm
if you're,
sorry.
if we're just looking at it, you really have to see it.
Kind of
Now,
hard to
the
say.
pathway that I said the cars go through, right between the school and the industrial area to the left, is a doorway, right? And that's that's the back portion of those buildings, right? It's not the front portion of the buildings.
Are you referring to the area that's this area marked here
No,
or this area?
this area there.
Yeah,
That's the back side of the buildings, and there's no egress really from the school in the area, right? That's parking, or the trucks go in and out in the back loading docks, right? Okay, so the businesses is on the other side of the building, more towards Fairview, right?
Yes.
Okay, now, the OCTA bike path project that goes to El Salvador Park, that is not going to be affected anyway, because that's on the Pacific Railroad path, right? So, and that's fenced in separately from the school, the edge of the property. So one can come from the street here, drive all the way around and come back here. But they're proposing to have a drop off in that little bubble area there, right?
Yes.
So, and they won't be doing it in the front, right? And they won't be doing on the side street there. Okay. So we're not worried about children getting in there as a truck. Okay. And so in 2008, the city council, this 15 years ago, right? Approved what is it that they approved? Zoning change?
An amendment application for rezoning.
Rezoning because of the school usage for a large path of that, right?
That was actually what established the SD 82 in 2008.
Right, which is the same one that was being used for Mendes Junior High, which is in the shopping center.
No, I don't think so.
Refresh my name, SD 82. Is that the one where you could put it over the drainage patch to Huntington Beach and stuff like that because they wanted to use land more to increase housing? No? Okay. I just want to make sure that, you know, okay, so what did SD 82 say we could do?
So this allowed a list of various industrial uses. And when it was first established in 2008, it allowed churches with the conditional use permit. Then in 2019 or 2020, when it was amended, it allowed for schools.
And so some of the former business there were like mechanic shops, right? Automobile related, but it's kind of changed.
That was not part of the SD 82 at the time when it was first established, but they are trying to, or actually they're leaving, the auto uses are leaving, and now they want to build an office.
And so the who owns the subject property that we're talking about?
601 North Fairview is owned by 2609 West Fifth Street LLC. And I believe the property where Vista is located, and the applicant can help confirm, is owned by Civic Center Business Park. So there's two property owners. 601 North Fairview is the 2609 West Fifth Street LLC, and then Vista School is located in a parcel owned by Civic Center Business Park.
So is the school leasing the property or what? Or they're part of the LLC?
The school would be part of the Civic Center Business Park.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Vice Chair.
No questions at this time.
Fernanda, if we were to assume, let's say in current time, that this is a new development, would these uses be in conflict with each other, or are they, based on our general plan, be acceptable uses? Sharing, co-occupying a lot.
Based on the general plan designation, I don't believe they would be in conflict with the general plan.
And the change in land use at the corner, does that intensify the parking demand, or is that net zero demand?
It's actually less parking demand. For office, the parking demand is 3 spaces per 1,000 square feet, whereas when it was auto repair, it was 5 parking spaces per 1,000 square feet.
And then based on the restriping in the proposed project, are we in a parking deficit just in terms of what was originally there, or are we improving the parking count?
Actually, I believe it remains the same.
Okay. And I know you mentioned a parking study. Did the parking study illustrate the demand of the existing office or industrial use? Is that parking largely relegated to the parking that's in front of these existing uses, or have there been bleed through in parking demand?
Because there is existing reciprocal access agreements and parking, the overall site has sufficient parking or meets the parking per previous entitlements. Those entitlements were issued in 2008. there's a variance that allowed the parking that's currently existing. So with this new proposal, the parking would remain the same.
Right. My main question is just to understand if the parking, because there's obviously parking in front of these existing office and existing uses. If on a day-to-day basis, if those parkings serve those uses, and if there's any bleed through on the other parcel. But that's all. I was wondering if the traffic study, spoke on that language.
Yeah, it illustrated some of that information. There's also an agreement with the property to the south, between the school and a property to the south. They have 20 additional parking spaces that they can use offsite.
Is there any other question for Fernanda? Commissioner Escamilla?
Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to read through the comments as quickly as I can. And there was one that kind of stuck out to me as maybe the most potentially hazardous issue that was brought up. Do we know where the silica dust and the marble tile facility is at in relation to all this, and like kind of what specific unit? Just because I do take that seriously. I think there's like an NPR segment on the dangers of silica dust earlier today. So it's fresh on my mind. And I know that we're kind of moving as a state, hopefully, towards regulating that a little bit more closely, but I'm just trying to understand the environmental concern on that particular comment.
Yeah, the applicant prepared an environmental document, and it talked about the health risk assessment. And CEQA normally reviews based on the proposed project, what the effects of that proposed project are. But they did include a paragraph stating that the existing industrial businesses didn't have an impact that was strong enough to basically affect the proposed project.
And I know it might be a little too late right now, but could you point me to the page in the environmental? I know it's like harder to
Yeah,
look at
I
my phone.
believe it's in the exhibit. I believe it's either page 17 or 18.
Okay. And then I guess I guess to me, and I know it usually is just you can't CEQA doesn't analyze the environment's impact on the project, but the project's impact on the environment. But in a particular case, when there is kind of a heightened potential conflict, it is something that's under our purview.
Yeah, so that's why we asked the applicant to revise the environmental document to take that into account.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no other comments from the commissioner, the public hearing is now open. Would the applicant like to speak on the matter?
Good evening, planning commissioners. My name is Dr. Colin Felch. I am the Deputy Superintendent of Vista Charter Public Schools. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. I first want to thank the Planning Department for their hard work on this project, and we are in full agreement with the report. I also want to share that Vista has been here, part of the community in Santa Ana since 2015, and I personally have been here as principal of Vista since 2017. And so we have seen Vista grow and really serve the community for a number of years. And we're really proud to be here in Santa Ana. In terms of the project here before you this evening, it's really an effort to respond to comments when we originally came here in 2020 by the City Council about the need for outdoor play area for our students and also demands from the parents. We really want to show that we are listening to our parents and providing the best possible accommodations for our students. And we're also very excited as part of this project to be able to bring our organizational home office to the great city of Santa Ana. So we really want to show that we are investing and reinvesting, not only in our school, but also the community. And so far we have invested $6 million, and with this proposed project would be another $6 million, totaling $12 million, putting back into the community of Santa Ana. The last thing that I would like to mention is in the essence of time, we have a number of people here, parents, students, staff members, who all would really love to speak. However, we do want to be mindful and respectful of your time. And so we are going to probably pare down some of the public speakers, but I would like to ask the parents, students, and staff who are here to all stand up, please, if you are in support of the VISTA project, so you can see the support here in the room. Thank you very much. And with that, again, thank you for your time and attention to this. We have our entire team here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. You can stay. Commissioner Benninger, you have comments for the
Growing up
applicant?
with an elementary school, which we didn't have a playground, parking lot, and that side, is that where the kids are getting exercise now today?
So there's a small playground, a very small playground directly behind Templo Calvario. That is where they're able to have some outdoor play space. We also have a gymnasium where they're able to have physical education. But trying to work on logistics with 840 kids, it's really difficult to have enough play space for recesses, lunches, and physical education for our students.
Good. Also going back to parking, presently, what would you estimate, how much of the parking is being used presently today?
Great question. So having been there for 7 years, I can tell you that prior to the acquisition of Parcel 4 and the demolition of the auto shops, it was very difficult to find a parking spot unless you got there very early in the morning. Since the acquisition of Parcel 4 and the demolition of the auto shops, parking has not been an issue. For example, I went there in the middle of the day today, got there around 2 p.m., right in the middle of the school day. And there were, I would guess, 40 open parking spots, most of them along the rail line behind Templo Calvario. And so we're just about at our capacity for student enrollment. And as a result, that's really the capacity that we would have for staffing. And so there really wouldn't be any more cars coming than there are currently. And there's plenty of parking to go around as currently situated. And we have also instructed our parents not to park in the proposed spots that would be taken out. So that way we can really make sure and show that we do have plenty of parking to go around.
I do like the addition of the turnaround for dropping children off and picking children up. Just curious, how do you do it now?
We do it very similarly. And so our parents have really become accustomed to that, coming around Templo Calvario, swinging back around, coming back on the other side. We really want to be mindful and respectful of our neighbors to the west of us. And so we do instruct our parents to come from that side and then exit from that side as well.
I got to see it firsthand because we had the mayor's prayer breakfast was there at the temple. And so we got to see parents drop off children. So we saw how that worked.
Yes.
Almost said, thank you.
Commissioner Escamilla.
Yeah, no, I wanted to thank you, and I do appreciate the show of solidarity, but also the saving of time for everybody here. So appreciate all of you in the audience that did that. Yeah, I guess at the end, I obviously know that you care about your children there. So whatever kind of reasonable accommodations can be made to make sure that it is a safe, healthy environment. That's really at the end of the day what I'm up here concerned about, as I know you are as well, and obviously the parents are as well. So that's really just kind of the first thing that I just wanted to leave as a comment. And then secondarily, I do believe in the safety of our children is of the utmost importance. And then one of the things that to me is one of the most dangerous things that we have kind of going on in the city is pedestrian fatalities, especially amongst young children. I think you have a unique opportunity here in the sense that the fence line next to the Pacific Electric right-of-way is going to be using kind of a class 1 or class 2, its own kind of separate bicycle infrastructure. If there is kind of any time in the future where that might be able to connect so the students can directly either walk safely, bike safely, or find some alternative way to kind of come in and not have to be on the street. I do think that's something that would be worth looking into in the future. Though, as part of this discussion, I don't think it's really pertains to what we're talking about here. But as we're looking at the site overall, I do recommend that you take a look at that. And I guess it's really more commentary than anything. And I appreciate you listening.
Thank you, and I appreciate your comment.
Commissioner Leo? No question. Commissioner Will?
I want to thank you parents for coming out tonight. The question I have is that when you had those auto repair shop, I think I used one of them, but the lack of parking space seemed to be attributed to the immobile cars that they had. And most recently, I drove by your offices in the morning and later on in the evening after 5, and there was no one parking in front of on Fifth Street at your building. It was all empty. So it doesn't. I would confirm what you're saying about there's not a parking issue. My concern was more about the truck traffic, because that is where the truck going now. But I didn't observe a lot of that traffic going on. But that's also going to be parking spaces now, right? That we open up for the businesses, or mainly the
yes,
customers on the other side, right? On Fairview.
Yeah, exactly. And I do want to say that as part of the process, doing the sunshine meetings and meeting with our neighbors, we were able to make some important adjustments to the plan to be able to make sure that we were accommodating trucks that were still able to make that turn. And we did a parking study that made sure that the turn was still able to be done by large trucks.
And your parents park in the back, right?
Yeah. Parents park in, mainly in the back. Yeah, because that's where the pickup and drop off.
Pacific,
Correct.
right, and
Correct.
behind the building, right?
Yep.
Okay, so you do have a plan there. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Vice Chair?
No additional questions, but thank you for all the parents and families that are here in support of this item.
Were you able to provide staff with a kind of a future drop off and pickup simulation of where you think is going to be the largest demand on parking is at that time? Because I know schools, but most of the times the kids are in class, so we won't have that much of a parking demand, but the pickup and drop off, that seems to be the highest demand, probably the most concerning for your neighbors.
Correct. Yeah. And so what we're able to do, first of all, we already have a significant population. About a third of our students take free transportation that we provide through buses and vans. So that significantly lowers the amount of cars coming and going. And then in addition to that, one thing that we also are committed to providing our parents and families are times between 7:30 and 8:30, so it's an hour before school starts. We don't need every parent to drop off 5 minutes before school starts. And then we also have an after school program that goes from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock. So it really reduces the flow significantly, both in the morning and the afternoon. And because the route is almost identical to what it currently has been, we're confident in being able to say that what we've been doing is going to be very, very similar. Yeah, and we haven't had any issues with that.
Thank you. That's the extent of my comments. Is there any other comments from the rest of the commission? No?
Thank you.
Secretary, do we have any comments via Zoom? Because I know we have quite a few in person.
Yes, we have one public comment via Zoom.
Caller.
Nate, please unmute yourself.
Hi, I'm Nate Greensides, Ward 5 resident, and I wish to share my opinion on this matter as a resident whose friends, family, and neighbors have children, as I might desire one day for myself too. I do not dispute the results and hard work of Vista Charter School's faculty and staff, but I want to point out that right across the street from the location exists a public school now known as Romero Cruz Academy. That school has more than sufficient outdoor recreational space for its students. The building currently owned by the applicant was not meant to be a school, nor was the adjacent property that is the subject of the application. Charter schools in Santa Ana are creating a two-tiered system of publicly funded educations where students who face individual disadvantages are relegated to attending non-charter schools after already facing which those schools already face regular bureaucratic challenges that currently exist within our public school system. This means that students who have special needs, this means that students who need additional attention because of quote unquote behavioral issues. This means students whose parents will work full time and may not get as much assistance and guidance in their academic studies upon returning home after school. When the best and brightest students are siphoned away from public schools into publicly funded but privately controlled charter schools, public schools lose funding but still have operations and facilities costs that they must maintain by law. An additional point of consideration is regarding what happens when a publicly funded, privately controlled charter school decides to change locations and what happens to the students thereafter. There have already been a few publicly funded, privately controlled charter schools in Santa Ana that have relocated to other parts of the city or even the county, which resulted in students having to change schools every year, if not in the middle of the school year, which caused stabilization for students, families, and communities. Furthermore, my understanding is that specific Development Plan 82 was created so that the church can operate, which was approved as an exemption to our old general plan. Our current general plan grandfathers in this SD 82, but our current general plan outlines that this area should be used for industrial flex office spaces and small scale clean manufacturing. It's suspect to me that SD 82 was amended to allow for a school, and right across the street exists a public school serving similar age demographics, grades 6 through 8. I also question the community garden aspect, as most schools don't allow randos to visit during school grounds during school hours, and earlier it was mentioned that the gates will be closed outside of school hours. One serious point of consideration and concern that I have is regarding possible negative health effects due to the possible presence of lead in the soil, given the historical use of the property as an auto repair business and a neighboring railway use. Many properties that used to have car repairs in our city as a property use have lead in the soil, and I am concerned about constructing outdoor recreation for students on it. And by no means do I oppose high quality education for all children. I just believe that it behooves us as a society to ensure that public funds serve the interest of everyone in our communities and not just individual profits for people who may not be familiar to the needs and land of Santa Ana residents and neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to comments, public comments in person. Ms. Angie Kano, would you like to present?
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. My name is Angie Cano, and I'm here because Mr. Allen Wu asked a very important question. Who owns the land where they're going to be building the playground? And we did receive the comments from the legal counsel from Vista Charter themselves that says the following. And this is from Stradling, from Sean Absher, that says the following. Vista Charter, acronym BCPS, has not asserted it owns the restricted area, as set forth in December 6th letter. So with that said, that is a common area. They don't own it, and they are trying to use everyone here for land theft. If you don't own something, if you don't pay for something, if you don't have a receipt for something, why are you asking to say this should be a playground? Oh, then in that case, if we are a restricted area, then does that mean I can build a pool in front just because I say so? No, it's disrespectful. It's disgusting to see someone try to go cherry pick certain items. They have 4 legal counsel letters. And in those 4 legal counsel letters, like I mentioned, Stradling mentions they don't own it. And then we have Hansenberg and Clay. They don't talk about the reciprocal easement agreement. They're cherry picking. They don't talk about the unanimous written consent, cherry picking. This was December 7th, 2023. And then we have Ackerman. Ackerman mentions the following. However, the play yard proposed within the building AB common area, not owned by Vista Charter, is subject to the CC&Rs. Ackerman, this is legal counsel from Vista Charter themselves, and it's absolutely terrible that they're the ones trying to provide the narrative and trying to brainwash people into believing that they can rezone these areas that act like it belongs to them. Furthermore, I urge the Planning Commission to not support this act of lipstick on a pig on a school where 71% of their students cannot read at grade level, according to the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress CASP, where 92% of students are failing in math. So en español, 71% de los estudiantes en Vista Charter no están leyendo al nivel académico en los exámenes de California y 92% están fallando en las matemáticas, pero quieren gastar $6 millones para cargar sus carros eléctricos. So it's the best way, $6 million taxpayer money is going to go to EV charging stations, a little garden, lipstick on a pig, when all of this is going behind no tutors, nothing. And aside from that, I am seeking legal counsel to represent us because the narrative is only one, Vista Charter. And even their own legal interpretations tells them, you don't own this.
Your time's
This is a
up.
common area. Thank you.
Thank you. David Hunt.
Hello, board members. Can you hear me okay? And hello, everybody else who took the time to come here tonight. Welcome, everybody. My name is David Hunt. I'm a small business owner at 519 North Fairview Street in Santa Ana. And I'm here in opposition to agenda item number 3, amended application 23-04 and zoning ordinance amendment 2023-03. As I stated, I'm a small business owner in the same complex in a Civic Center Business Park, the same property as Vista Heritage Charter Academy. That will be, and myself as well as all of the neighbors on the west side of the alley will be adversely affected if they are allowed to move forward with their plans to build a large playground and a courtyard in common areas of our business park. I, along with 11 of my neighbors, have repeatedly voiced many of our concerns about this project at the Sunshine meetings held earlier this year, as well as all of the other meetings that were held previously. Vista Charter states that there is language in our CC&Rs interpreted by their legal counsel that says it's okay for them to fence off and modify our common parking areas for their own personal use. Our CC&Rs are very straightforward and are written in a way that leaves no room for any other interpretation than their true meaning. All of us who will be negatively affected by this project are truly taken aback and concerned are concerned that the language of our CC&Rs is actually up for discussion. This is unprecedented. I haven't seen any language in our CC&Rs or so-called revisions that even come close to suggesting that it would be okay for any of us to expand our footprints to close off large sections of common area parking spaces for any reason. Again, this is unprecedented. Our CC&Rs were written and are in place to protect all business owners in our community from scenarios such as this very one that is playing out right now. The only folks who stand to benefit from this, from these proposals are Vista Charter Heritage Academy. If Vista Charter Academy is allowed to move forward with their proposals, our property values stand to decrease significantly, and many of us will end up having to leave because of this project. It will, if we end up having to leave because of this project, okay, it'll be extremely difficult. Thank you for your time. And I really do wish all the best to everybody involved. I just hope there's a way to move forward that won't negatively affect anybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. In the interest of time, there's 15 requests to speak form in support of this item, given that we've heard from 3 of the opposing opinions. If you'd like to consolidate your your support to 3 to 4 people, that would be great. Just choose amongst yourself. Please, go ahead.
I don't think I've ever been this nervous before, but there's a lot in Vista in my family. So my name is Soyla Lubin and I live in Ward 2. I am writing to support for Vista Condor Global Academy building project. My family has been with Vista Charter School for 7 years. I am a proud parent of a Vista alumni who now attends Mater Dei, is waiting for university confirmation. I have an 8th grader who exceeds and meets every year and loves his school. I have a 2nd grader who was nonverbal in kinder when he came into Vista, and now he speaks and he's writing and he is proficient in math and getting close to reading levels. Lastly, I have a kindergartner that's reading at 1st grade level. My favorite thing about Vista is the community and the respect for what parents need besides their excellent curriculum. Even though this meeting is not about school curriculum or its ability to educate the students in Santa Ana, I assure you that the students' academic success as well-being are the school's #1 priority. I have been with Vista throughout all the major constructions, and throughout all of this time, we the parents have always desired an outdoor environment for our children. Full disclosure, I work at Vista. 64 people, residents of Santa Ana, work for Vista. My relationship with Vista started as a parent volunteer and evolved into what it is now. I am an intelligent individual and a parent who takes the time to choose the right school for my children. When I chose Vista, I knew that they had a few things, and the back playground was one of them. This expansion will allow my children to have an outdoor playground, play soccer, and let me tell you, kids today, every time I go through those hallways, Ms. Soyla, when are we gonna play soccer? And it kills me to say I'm working on it. The school can continue hosting community events with safety and proper facility. This building plan includes a safety fence around the back of the school. This fence will help keep unwanted guests, and it will keep all of us safe, parents, students, and teachers. I also know that the school will be bringing a district office to Santa Ana, and I'm a proud resident of Santa Ana. I attend meetings in Santa Ana, and I know that this building will look beautiful when it's done, especially when that bike trail goes through. This garden will also help, and then the community garden. Although we mentioned that it's small, it's gonna be a great community garden where all our students can learn about botany and how to take care of their environment. The beautification of the space will further bring parents who benefit from all the school and food pantry that we provide, and
Your
the
time's up.
beautification of Fairview. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, my name is Jaylene Salero Bautista, and I'm 11 years old. And a few things that I like about Vista, or things that we need to change, is that we need a few more outsiders, and like we need to be more outside than inside because we're usually in technology. We like don't play outside too much, and we need to be more outside. Like recess should be like more like 25 minutes than like 10 or 5. And we need to add more playgrounds, a few more like playground equipments. And we also need a soccer field so we can play soccer and do more activities. And the school, I really love it. And it makes me feel like happy, exciting. And I really love my teachers and all the teachers that care for us. And I just want to make the school a little bit better by adding more playgrounds, more equipment, and being outside more. And that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Darian Mello. I am here in support of Vista. Sorry. I am here in support of Vista's effort to create an outdoor space for our students. I have been at Vista for almost 4 years, and I have to say I've never been more proud to be a part of a community that has strived and succeeded in so many ways to transform the school experience. At Vista, we teach our students to be global citizens, to investigate the world, recognize perspectives, communicate their ideas, and take action. We show them that no matter their age, you can make a difference in your community through your educational experience and beyond. We meet our students' social and emotional needs through counsel circles, where we create a safe space filled with support and understanding, where students are able to share their struggles, receive help from each other's experiences. Oftentimes, some think students are only within the classroom during class time, but this is not the case. I, as well as many of the other teachers, often have students in our rooms from the moment that we come in to the moment we leave, receiving advice and guidance from not only the teachers, but everyone in the Vista community. At Vista, we are always trying to find ways to best meet the needs of our students, both academically and their social emotional needs. The teens of today are faced with so many struggles, especially with their mental health. And I often get asked, Mrs. Mello, why can't we just go outside? Can we take a brain break outside? And it breaks my heart to tell them no. Having an outdoor space will provide our students with a place where they can truly get a breath of fresh air and be able to investigate the world even more outside of the classroom. This provides our students with the opportunity to expand their learning outside of our four walls and within the community of Santa Ana that they love and are proud to call their home. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker.
My name is Amanda Tabon. I'm probably going to talk too fast, so I apologize in advance. I've lived in Santa Ana since I was about 4 months old. I have one daughter who is at Vista, and then I also foster, so we have other kiddos in and out all the time. I'm going to attempt to let go of this and see what, oh, no, okay. So I just wanted to go over some of the importance of having green spaces, especially for our children. Numerous studies have shown that green spaces in urban development are directly linked to lower instances of anxiety, depression, cancer, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, crime, and then future criminal behavior of the children impacted. Studies also show that this also correlates with higher instances of, or does correlate with higher instances of cultural and social awareness, focus and attention, which obviously improves learning outcomes, physical health, creativity, and plenty more. Green spaces in urban development directly mitigate the effects of pollution, some of which you've mentioned with the silica and all of that. And it also lowers the urban heat island effect that is greatly affecting Santa Ana. The nearest green spaces that to the east, obviously there's Romero Cruz nearby, but the nearest green spaces to the east of Fairview are El Salvador and Jerome Park, which are both approximately a mile away. So there's not very many nearby. And then the green spaces are even further spread out the further you go towards downtown. Vista's vision is to cater directly to underserved populations, which directly aligns with the heart and soul of Santa Ana. The community of Santa Ana has always been driven to put community health first, and that's exactly what this project would do. Children with regular access to outdoor play have improved outcomes, and those children will be the city's leaders tomorrow. Green space will cause no harm to surrounding businesses, family, or community. It will, in fact, benefit them. Noise from the green space will be no greater than the noise from the existing small playground, as the grass will aid in the sound dampening from children at play, in addition to dampening noise from surrounding loud industrial businesses, including the trains. In addition, Vista does not regularly use noise amplifying equipment like that used daily by Romero Cruz across the street, so noise pollution will remain the same or will be improved. When my daughter first started attending Vista last year, in 2020, math is hard, I'm sorry, last school year, approximately 70 parking spaces surrounded, oh, I'm sorry, that's next. Approximately 70 parking spaces surround the west buildings that Vista parents know are off limits. This is currently. Communal space would mean those spots should be accessible to all parents and staff. So if communal space is a factor, then those spots should not be off limits to parents currently. So those should be free access. Now is the part about last year. So when my daughter began at Vista for first grade, which was last year, the communal property was in disarray with unhoused neighbors leaving trash and drug paraphernalia throughout the parking lot. And since Vista has been working on the buildings, tore down the old buildings, and has been working on repairing them, the property has become much neater, cleaner, and actually safe for kids to be in. So
Your time's up.
It'll get better.
Thank you.
That's going to be the public comments from Vista, but I do want to make one final comment since this did come up. So I do have I know this is a land use item, but the question about the CCNRs did come up, even though it's a private item. I do have the language from the Second Amendment to the CCNRs, which is the most recent language. And so I'd just like to read it for you. So the Second Amendment to the Industrial Condominium Enabling of Covenants, Conditions, and Restrictions for the Civic Center Business Park designate portions of the common area adjacent to buildings A and B. A and B are Vista and Templo Calvario next to us, as quote unquote restricted common area for the exclusive use of buildings A and B. So again, we don't own the space, but it is exclusive use for Vista and Templo, and both Vista and Templo are completely on board with this. And not only will it benefit Vista, but this outdoor play space will also be used on nights and weekends for Templo Calvario. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I saw there was a caller that came in that's not for this item. Is that correct? If that's the case, we'll close the public hearing. I'll bring it back to the commission. Do we need time to discuss this item? Commissioner Benninger?
I have no comment.
Commissioner Escamilla?
Just a quick question for staff, might be for legal on this one. So if there's a dispute on the CCNRs and it's a private matter, what do we typically do at this point in time during the land use discussion? If there is a kind of an active dispute?
Thank you for your question, Commissioner. That's more of a legal question. We can't really, provide legal advice on the dais, but I do know that staff has considered all comments and any potential legal issues and has made their recommendations in compliance with all laws.
Thank you.
Commissioner Leo?
My comment would be is that if Vista could share the most recent amendments with the industrial owners so that everybody's on the same page. I know that Santa Ana is not a short process. You probably spent a year or little less than a year from the process with staff. I'm sure that all rocks have been overturned and everything's been looked at thoroughly. But I do appreciate the parents coming out. I heard comments about the school. If you care so much about the schools, go to the school district and talk to the school district. Charter schools were brought to Santa Ana many years ago because parents were complaining about the public schools. These parents obviously are invested in their kids' lives. If the public schools get better, maybe some parents will go back to the public schools. I've been around a long time. I saw the charter schools come through. Some of us had to go to Catholic school because the public schools weren't working. Parents walk with their feet to the schools where they want to take their kids. It's not something for the planning commission to decide. This is a land use issue. And from what I heard today is that there's a dispute in the CCNRs, which has nothing to do with us. And so therefore, those are my comments.
Commissioner Wu?
Yeah, I was kind of wondering why we're here today. So tenant A and B have a designated use of the common area, so use, and they made agreement upon themselves to be able to use the area for what they decided to do. They don't own the property, but they have, according to that amendment, access to it to do as they please. Am I right? Did I understand that right?
Yes. Yes, they do.
Yeah. So, so in that amendment, it didn't mention the business tenant on the more towards Fairview, right?
Correct.
Okay. I'm just trying to understand that again. Why are we here? So, we, following consistent with 2008, the city council's approval 15 years ago, and in 2022, right? We're just confirming the zoning amendments, right?
Right.
And going forward, right?
Correct.
with all the underlining the conditions and amendments that would agree to over the years. So that seemed to be where we are today, right? Okay, thank you.
Vice Chair.
Oh, wait a minute. So the issue is not that we're approving a playground. We are determining land use, right? Okay. I'm learning, man.
Go ahead, Vice Chair.
No additional comments.
And just to clarify, both all the owners on the lot will be drafting up a new CCNR if this is approved. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was part of the amendment to the SD.
Yeah, no other comments from my end. I'll entertain a motion.
I recommend that the city council adopt the ordinance approving amendment application zone change number 2023-04 and recommend the city council adopt an ordinance approving zoning ordinance amendment number 2023-03.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wu and a second by Commissioner Benninger. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Commissioner Benninger,
Aye.
Commissioner Escamilla,
Aye.
Commissioner Leo,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramos, Commissioner Wu,
Aye.
Vice Chair Oliva,
Aye.
Chair Pham.
Aye.
Motion approved by majority vote with Commissioner Ramos absent.
Great. Do we want to break or do we have two more items?
I say we power through, but
Alright.
I'm okay with a break. Do we need it? I think staff wants a break.
I'll just let them file out.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's do a 5-minute break. Yeah.
Chris,
Seeing none, City Champion will now provide a brief presentation.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. I'm getting used to this microphone still, so let me know if you can't hear me. As mentioned previously, this is item 4, application zoning ordinance amendment, ZOA 2023-04. And of course, this application applies citywide. It's a proposal to amend sections of the Santa Ana Municipal Code. Of course, that's chapter 41, zoning code, chapter 41. And it pertains to wireless communication facilities, billboards, hotels, as well as general restrictions. And that's by adding definitions, removing definitions, establishing standards, streamlining applications, and clarifying ambiguous and duplicative sections of the zoning code. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to the City Council adoption of an ordinance approving the zoning ordinance amendment to amend various sections of the zoning code. So staff routinely reviews the zoning code and looks for items that need to be updated or clarified or changed. And in this process this year, staff identified 5 areas of the code which are now proposed to be amended. Those include wireless communication facilities, billboards, hotels, general provisions, and definitions. In the next few slides, you'll see tables that are presented. These are representing the proposed amendments. So the first topic pertains to wireless communication facilities. Currently in the code, conditional use permits for wireless communication facilities expire after 10 years. And at that time, or once an applicant submits a CUP to update their expiring permit, staff verifies that the original conditions are met through the development project review application process. And then renewal requires a public hearing before the Planning Commission, as you all know. In the proposed amendment, staff would verify that the original conditions are met, and then we would have an administrative approval by the Executive Director of Planning and Building. And that administrative permit would expire after 10 years, and at that time, they could go through the administrative process again. This amendment is consistent with Planning Commission's feedback, which was provided on October 9th, 2023, to create an administrative renewal process. The second topic is billboards. At this time, the current code requires a minimum separation of 1,000 feet between billboards. And the proposed amendment would clarify that that separation is required for billboards on the same side of the freeway. And this amendment will clarify that the distance applies to billboards on the same side of the freeway. So it's just a clarification. Next topic is hotels. So the current code permits hotels or motels in some locations, including commercial zones and 1 office zone, with approval of a conditional use permit. In this proposed amendment, we would permit hotels and motels also in the professional zone. We would also define full service hotels as hotels that offer full service restaurants, a fitness center, assembly area, swimming pools of a particular size, and regular shuttle service within the region. This proposed amendment would permit full service hotels in commercial, professional, and mixed use zones by right. Such an amendment will foster economic development and expansion of lodging opportunities. In addition, the current code lacks standards for hotels, motels, and of course for full service motels, since they don't exist in the current code. The proposed amendment would establish standards for both. You can see the list of standards here that would be created, including those for landscaping, drop-off zones, building materials, pedestrian protections, noise attenuation, crime prevention and management. All of those standards would apply to full service hotels, and we have a few additional for those as well. And they would pertain to architectural design elements, housekeeping schedules, and lobby requirements. This amendment will protect existing residential uses and ensure quality development. Next, regarding general restrictions, currently the code states that any building or land use shall not be used for any purpose other than that which is permitted in the district. This proposed amendment would clarify the permissive nature of the zoning code and state that uses defined in the development code are prohibited unless they're expressly permitted. And this amendment would ensure compatibility of land uses. Finally, in terms of definitions, this is a very simple one. At present, there are duplicative definitions for two different terms, and staff proposes removing the second definition for each of those two. And that this amendment will clean up the code by removing those duplicative definitions. In terms of general plan consistency, there are several items to mention here. First, the proposed amendment supports a business-friendly environment with simplified processes, particularly with regard to wireless communication facilities. In terms of billboards, the amendment seeks to minimize detrimental visual impacts. With regard to hotels, we seek to capture local spending and balance the development costs and benefits. And in addition, the full-service hotels would help to promote the city's image. And finally, across the board, these proposed amendments would achieve land use compatibility. In accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act and the CEQA guidelines, the ordinance is exempt from further review pursuant to section 15060C2 and C3 of the CEQA guidelines. A notice of exemption environmental review number 2023-115 will be filed for this project, and there are no fiscal impacts associated with this action. Staff recommends that the City Council adopt the staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to the City Council to adopt an ordinance approving zoning ordinance amendment number 2023-04 to amend various sections of the zoning code of the Santa Ana Municipal Code. That concludes staff presentation, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. Does the commission have any comments? Commissioner Benninger?
Just to say, I'm very supportive of changes that you recommend, especially ones that are going to encourage hotels to come in here if we are lacking hotel space in the city, as well as the benefits of having those in it. That's all I have to say.
Commissioner Escamilla?
Yeah, definitely appreciative of that, and also the opportunity to streamline. So I think finding similar opportunities, definitely trust staff and their discretion to make sure that they're that the CEPs for our wireless facilities are routine and well kept and maintain the standards. So definitely trust you all on that. I just wanted a little bit of clarification though as to some of the thought process behind maybe not expanding regular hotels by right within particular zones. So I know that there was kind of a trade-off, right, between certain high quality hotels and certain locations versus you just say kind of general motels, general hotels and others, and still requiring a conditional use permit for those. And I also wanted to know kind of what the flexibility was maybe for identifying other types of amenities. I don't necessarily want to tell hoteliers what amenities to have on site. So if one wanted to replace the gym with a spa, is that an equivalent use? Is there any kind of language that could be included to say, or amenity as approved by executive director or designated staff, just to allow some creativity there. I do believe that 4 is good. I want 4 amenities. I don't know if a rooftop bar with a pool counts as 4, or is that a third one once you get it on the roof? You know what I'm saying? Like if we can squeeze in something where I get a rooftop bar and it's like one less thing for them to do, I think we're all the better for it.
Thank you for that comment. And you're correct in terms of our goal in terms of identifying and defining specific types and level of service. What we have found throughout the city is that the different level of service don't dictate, but they do determine how the hotel operates as relates to the target population, target clients, as well as the types of secondary impacts that could occur in the community. And what we have found is that some of the smaller hotels where they're with less facilities and less amenities are geared towards the mobile clientele and may create impacts that we have to address. And therefore, we recommend continuing the public hearing and public review process for those hotels and motels so that the public and the city can continue to evaluate the secondary impact and address them through the conditions. By the same measure, we looked at different level of services in terms of what kind of amenities do they have and determine the minimum size that can help determine what is a different level of hotel service. And what we have found is that with those type of hotels, they tend to create less of those secondary impacts. And when they do have adequate amenities and well-designed, such as lobby, gym facilities, meeting space, restaurants, full service type hotels with adequate parking and designed well, they do create less of those impacts. And they should be encouraged, right? As a way of streamlining and providing incentive for economic development and catalytic effect for the different areas of our city.
And I guess for me, it's more just trying to be less prescriptive on the kind of just raw square footage. So if we want to say, 5,000 square feet between the assembly and the restaurant, I visually won't be able to tell you the difference between a 2,000 square foot restaurant and a 2,500. And if the site requirements allow a little bit flexibility, that's where I'm just saying if there is any way to allow you as a director and your staff to have a little bit of wiggle room there, I don't think that would be a bad thing.
I think we can certainly include language in there as part of this recommendation. Our staff did go through a series of very detailed analysis of different hotels throughout the country, different class ratings, star ratings, and determine the minimum standards of amenities as well as square footage so that we would have a well appointed facility.
Okay, and I don't think you have to answer this question, but I would imagine a lot of site visits by staff to various hotels and restaurants to see what worked out.
You have almost 100 years of hotel experience through the combination of the various staff.
Oh, thank you.
Commissioner Leah.
Just on the wireless communications facilities, they're 10-year windows, right? So the question is, let's say that new technology comes on board 2 years into the second 10 years. Is that written in so that we can get an automatic upgrade? Because anybody who sits around and waits for cable to improve, they do it immediately. So I'm wondering if there's some type of trigger mechanism that says if there's new technology, then you can yank them back in and say, hey, time to upgrade.
In my experience and in discussing with the industry in the past, it behooves the companies to actually be using the latest technology and the latest equipment so that they compete among themselves for really a limited pool of clients and customers. So they do this on their own. We often get equipment upgrades through the 10-year process that we currently have now that do not trigger a review because it's essentially an upgrade to existing equipment or making it improve, and it doesn't intensify. So that process happened naturally, but we always have the ability to have a staff-initiated or city-initiated review of a CUP if we find that there are conditions that warrants it, and we as a city always have that option.
Okay, good. And then the other thing is that I don't know if in the wireless section, because other cities now actually in Los Angeles, they're putting wireless communications on the bus stops. So I don't know if we have people on OCTA, do we not? So we can encourage. I just want to make sure that we're flexible enough, but also the services maintain at a high level, just because everything is done through what's held in your hand nowadays instead of your desktop. So, I think you hear me on that one. Billboards, I just have one thing. The trucks, semi-trucks on the 55 are not going to be covered by any wall. They put up billboards, they're cloth, but they put them on the side of the trailers. They're not a billboard. They're not a freestanding billboard. They don't meet our requirements. And so the question is, how do we bring them into compliance if they're going to put 3 semi-trailers that go down the 55 in Santa Ana? How do we bring them into compliance? And what language do we use? Because I'm sure they say, oh, no, we're a temporary trailer, so therefore but at some point, either you're gonna get with the city's regulations or you're not. And it appears to me that they've stuck their finger out at us and said, we don't care. And so how do we bring them into compliance?
So.
It's just a question.
Yes, and I think that's a question that is beyond the scope of our discussion tonight in terms of
Okay.
what we want to address here. What we're looking to do is to address the section of the digital billboards that we
Okay.
recently updated. And the changes that we're proposing is a mere clarification to indicate that the 1,000 feet
Understood.
is on both sides of the freeway.
Sure.
And this practice is consistent with Caltrans. So we want to stay focused on that issue tonight. Certainly, we can talk separately about the issue of concern that you have spoken about, and I'm available at any time to answer that,
Well,
off-
I think about, when I think about economic development and I think about the amount of 55 freeway that Santa Ana controls on both sides, about how to benefit the city in any economic way we can do it, we should try to do it. And because the 55, I don't know how many millions of cars go through that section. And even though they're gonna widen it, I've learned that they're not gonna put a wall up. So it's like, wait a second. I know you're making money, so just pay the permit fees, do what you gotta do. You've heard me. I'm done.
Commissioner Will. Commissioner Will.
I like boutique hotels, and I think there's a local usage for that too, when you have family visiting. And you need meeting rooms. of That sort. Under the billboard, does this cover street banners? No, that's a different thing. That's under Public Works or State of California.
Banners is regulated under the Chapter 41 temporary sign regulations.
Vice Chair.
I'm in support of the amendments, the clarifying language, and just making a document that people can understand when they read it. So I'm in full support.
Same as me, full support on the wireless. Just one quick question. Is there an avenue for appeal? Let's say the executive director says that the site no longer qualify. Is there a path for appeal to the commission or to the council?
Unfortunately, my decision is always appealable to the planning commission.
Great, thank you. Is there other Commissioner Escamilla?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to answer Mr. Leo's comment on OCTA. Though yes, OCTA shelters are, or the OCTA system, they are, I believe, technically owned by the respective city. Yeah, but I'm sure there's a partnership that could be worked out there.
Great. Well, public hearing is now open. Do we have any comments from the public, written or via Zoom?
We have not received public comment prior to the 3:30 deadline. If you're attending this meeting in person and would like to comment on this item, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it into the secretary. If you're participating via Zoom and would like to comment on this item, please select the hand icon and unmute yourself. If you're calling in and would like to comment on this item, please dial 9 and then 6 to unmute yourself. Chair, we do not have any speakers.
Thank you. The public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion to approve this matter?
I would like to make the motion to approve.
I will second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Escamilla and a second by Commissioner Benninger. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Commissioner Benninger?
Aye.
Commissioner Escamilla?
Aye.
Commissioner Leo?
Aye.
Commissioner Ramos? Commissioner Wu?
Aye.
Vice Chair Oliva?
Aye.
Chair Pham?
Aye.
Motion approved by majority vote with Commissioner Ramos absent.
Great. That concludes the business calendar. Moving on to the study session. We have one item this evening. Our senior planner, Siri Chambin, has a brief presentation.
Thank you again and continued good evening to everyone. As you just stated, the work study session tonight pertains to short-term rentals. The city is revisiting this subject in response to input received from some property owners that have expressed interest in short-term rentals, as well as a similar interest from some of the city council members. So the core purpose of the work study session is to receive feedback. I prefer feedback over feedback from the Planning Commission on the following key questions. First of all, are short-term rentals appropriate in downtown and in other newer use areas? What regulations are appropriate for Santa Ana? And how should the city enforce a short-term rental program? So let's start with the definition. A short-term rental could be considered a residential dwelling unit that is leased for a term of 28 days or less. And a residential dwelling unit in the zoning code is defined as a unit, as a residential dwelling unit. A residential dwelling unit is any single-family home, any separate occupancy unit in a two-family or multifamily dwelling building, and any other structure designed for human occupancy which contains a kitchen. In other words, any single-family home, a duplex, triplex, or larger. And short-term rentals are often referred to as vacation rentals, and they appear on many different platforms, such as Airbnb, VRBO, and many more. I'm sure many of us have stayed in a short-term rental previously. To understand the context for short-term rentals in the city, staff met with a company called Granicus. Granicus offers software solutions as well as information about short-term rentals. Their services include tracking, permitting, community reporting, and enforcement of regulations for municipalities. They have data on short-term rentals, not just in Santa Ana, but throughout the United States, and I'm sure they go further. Their data indicate a total of 1,120 unique rentals in Santa Ana, and those are listed a total of 1,344 times. So the reason for the difference between those numbers is that a single vacation rental or short-term rental can be listed multiple times on different platforms. So Granicus produced this map on our behalf, and it shows the distribution of short-term rentals that are advertised on different platforms. I think it's pretty difficult to see, so I'll just make note that the green circles appear on TripAdvisor, the yellow triangles appear on Priceline, the blue diamonds are from Expedia, the red squares are from Airbnb, and somewhere you can see brown circles which appear on other platforms. So if you look at it carefully, you can see concentrations in a few different areas. First of all, you can see the dense cluster in the downtown, as well as north of downtown and French Park. Second, there's a cluster at the south end of the city in the general vicinity of Sandpoint. And then lastly, there's a smaller cluster generally at the northern end of the city near the 22-5 freeway interchange. So the intent of the discussion around short-term ordinance, of a short-term rental ordinance, is to permit short-term rentals in parts of the city that are conducive to such a use. And that could take place in downtown and in other newer mixed-use zoning areas where residential mixed uses are allowed. In addition, the intent is to not permit short-term rentals in established single or multifamily residential neighborhoods to mitigate impacts for those uses. The goal of a short-term rental ordinance would be to create additional lodging options and enhance tourism, to increase transient occupancy tax revenues, to minimize impacts to long-term housing availability, and to establish a regulatory framework enabling enforcement of regulations and tax collection. So to learn more about short-term rental programs and regulations, staff surveyed several cities. They include neighboring cities as well as a variety of tourist destinations. So where are short-term rentals permitted? Each city takes a different approach toward short-term rentals. Many cities permit them in residential areas, whereas others like Oakland permit short-term rentals in special areas like downtown or the waterfront. Other cities permit them in commercial areas with mixed-use zoning. And the map on the right shows the example of Newport Beach. Newport Beach permits short-term rentals in their residential zones with the exception of their single-family residential zones. And they have a useful mapping tool that you can look at to see whether or not your property qualifies for a short-term rental. And you can also see where short-term rentals are permitted throughout the city. In terms of regulations, they fall into two main categories. Those are nuisances and management and operation. Regarding nuisances, regulations often include noise restrictions, restrictions to or prohibition of large, loud parties. They also will limit use of pools, spas, and other types of outdoor amenities. For visual clutter, they restrict advertising signs. And one of the important things that we picked up on was the importance of holding the permit holder responsible. So making sure that the property owner themselves are receiving citations instead of just giving citations to those that are renting the homes, because the homeowner is more likely to take that seriously over time and be careful about who they're renting to. And then lastly, parking is an important issue when it comes to short-term rentals. And so you see limiting the number of cars. You also see restrictions against parking on streets. In terms of management and operation, many jurisdictions require a local contact, and one in particular required a local contact available 24 hours a day, located within 30 miles distance. And having had experience with short-term rentals in Big Bear Lake, I can emphasize the importance of each of those points. Another regulation pertaining to management and operation includes requirement that the primary resident be on site. Many jurisdictions, if not all, will limit the duration of time, the number of days in a row that you can rent your home. There are also oftentimes limitations on the maximum days per year that you can rent. So for example, you could rent for 24 days a year and no more. There are oftentimes maximum number of occupants as well as a minimum age for renters, just like you'd find with renting a car. A few miscellaneous examples include a requirement that residents occupy the unit for a minimum number of days per year. This is to help avoid issues that pertain to second home owners. Other places require or have a lottery. In order to obtain your license, you need to win that lottery, so to speak. And then many cities have considered putting a cap on the total number of short-term rentals in their cities. In terms of regulatory oversight, each city is organized differently. In many cities, code enforcement is the primary department that manages short-term rental programs, and they will handle permitting as well as compliance. In some cities, planning is the lead with support from others, but in all instances, code enforcement handles the compliance issues. And then finance and the city attorney's offices support the needs of the lead departments. Permitting is also different in each city, and some common names for different permit types include short-term rental permits, business licenses, or simply use of business licenses. Some cities have registrations. Some use conditional permits for every single short-term rental. And then other terms include home occupation authorization or home sharing license. Revenues and expenditures are important considerations with regard to short-term rentals. And three revenue sources include transient occupancy tax. Among the jurisdictions that we surveyed, the average jurisdiction charges 11% on top of the, it charges 11% tax. In addition, we learned about a visitor service fee charged by one jurisdiction at a rate of 1%. And then another jurisdiction charges a code enforcement fee to help cover their cost of code enforcement at 2% in one jurisdiction. And of course, the expenditures that the city must handle include administration of the short-term rental program, code enforcement, as well as legal fees. So we have a list of considerations for you to think about tonight. Key considerations include the need to identify appropriate locations in which to allow short-term rentals, how to create a licensing and or registration program, the increased demand for staff to administer and monitor the ordinance, transient occupancy tax revenue generation and increased lodging options, the need to adopt good neighbor policies for operators, enabling code enforcement to license, monitor, and cite, and citing property owners directly when they or their renters operate outside of adopted regulations. In terms of areas for further study, there are two for your consideration this evening. They're the Metro East Mixed Use Overlay Zone of the downtown, and the Metro East Mixed Use Overlay Zone, and then the Transit Zoning Code in the downtown, which includes properties north and south. And all of this includes properties to the north and south of East First Street going into Tustin. So to close the presentation, I'll return to those key questions that were shown at the beginning of the presentation. What regulations are appropriate for Santa Ana? Sorry, my notes are old, I apologize. So first of all, are short-term rentals appropriate in the downtown and in other newer mixed areas? Second, what regulations are appropriate for Santa Ana? And then third, how should the city enforce short-term rentals? With that, I'll close the presentation and I look forward to the discussion this evening.
Thank you. Commissioner Benninger, do you have any comments?
First of all, I want to thank you, Siri, for the presentation. I'm very excited we're finally addressing this issue because there's a lot of concern out there, and there are a lot of places being rented that the city's not getting the financial money from on it. Just going down quickly for the things that you end up answering, I think the biggest thing is residents want to be sure that there's some way that these short-term rentals don't come into a party house or don't come into owned by someone who doesn't give a damn and let the area deteriorate for it. So as you're looking at other cities and how they're handling it, I think it's very important issues. How do they enforce these laws and how they make them stick? Sometimes I feel sorry for Mr. Alvarez because he gives them 30 days or 40 days or 50 days. And meanwhile, the problem continues. Or you can find them so little that doesn't mean anything on it. So they have to have teeth to those ordinances if we do have them. As far as locations, I've enjoyed short-term rentals, a number of places. And Oregon is one where we've been right in residential areas. So I don't see any reason that why we would strict downtown or even single-family residences. I don't have a problem with that, as long as, again, that they are good neighbors and do not crowd a neighborhood with cars or have a party atmosphere or noise problems. And so my answer to your question is A, you can have it anywhere in the city, but B, let's get the laws out there that are very restrictive if someone wants to violate them.
Commissioner Escamilla?
Yeah, and I guess there's going to be a lot on this one. So I guess I'll start with the first observation is I'm glad we're having this discussion here. I know just kind of by the members of the audience, there's probably a vast amount of additional interest in this particular topic. I don't think that we necessarily properly notified the wide spectrum of individuals. I know we posted it on the Planning Commission meeting and the agendizing of that. But, we didn't do like a Nixle announcement. I don't believe we didn't like really kind of promote this particular day as far as a moment to talk about short-term rentals. So I do feel that whatever we discussed today is very much preliminary, very much kind of first step, because without kind of doing that citywide announcement, I think we're going to have a surprise shock when it comes to taking it over to city council. And then a lot of people come out because then that's the first time that anyone's looking at it. So I do believe that beyond just the Planning Commission, that we would probably want to figure out some kind of ward-based tour of this particular one. I do think it rises to that interest as far as short-term rentals go. I think that the number of competing interest are to that extent. I think we have a lot of folks that are worried about housing cost increasing based upon short-term rentals. We have a lot of legitimate concerns about folks being unable to afford their homes without having this as an income source. There's, I think, the overall agreement that we don't want party houses. I think we have that baseline to work from with everybody involved. And really, I think at the end of the day, it's going to be balancing out all of those issues. And I don't think that we're going to be able to get there within a single night tonight. And I do really encourage staff to take those kind of proactive steps and kind of do the roadshow, just because I do believe that every district in the city is going to be a little bit it's going to be a different reception depending upon the unique characteristics of each neighborhood. Personally, I do believe that we should be as flexible as possible. I think that the highlighted best practices are limited number of days over a certain number, certain time, a little bit more regulation around full home rentals. I do believe that, if we do kind of break things down into categories, I think it might be a little bit easier for single room rentals, because it makes a little bit more sense when you have the person that lives there, being on site and being able to manage the situation from getting out of hand versus a full home rental that can too often, devolve into something that we don't want it to be. I guess I would just add that it's not impossible, and I don't think we should ban that, but I do think that we need to be worried about full home rentals in single family neighborhoods, probably more so than just about any of the other impacts. And I do believe that we should have kind of built-in mechanisms to track the individual kind of permit holder and then basically remove them from the ability to grab or to have that license if they've been proven to have certain number of strikes over a certain number of years or months. I don't necessarily think someone should be banned as an operator for life, but we should be able to have some kind of administrative review to basically revoke a permit if we do find that someone is over time a bad actor and basically needs to be addressed by removing that permit and therefore invalidating their ability to do a short-term rental. And I know that we typically, and I know many are going to be looking at me right now, but we typically don't talk about labor issues, but without the labor buy-in, I think that's going to be very much in line with whatever can get passed. I know we're not supposed to discuss that in land use setting, but realistically, that is going to be an item of conversation when it comes to whatever legislation and ordinance is adopted.
Commissioner Leo.
I think that we're talking about in parts of the city fundamentally changing the makeup of the city. So I think every neighborhood will go through that. I think what is fascinating to me, but also saddens me, is that we have been pretty clear about not allowing short-term rentals, and we have thousands online that people still do and comply with. We have plenty of non-permitted garages. We have multiple families living in one house. We've got a lot of things that don't comply with any parts of our code. And we need to be willing to basically hire a staff of people to enforce these things. And that's not easy to do. In addition to that, we have to do it in multiple languages. So for me, I think that as we go down this road, I agree with Commissioner Escamilla. This is not going to be a short process, because Newport Beach has 80,000 residents, but they have 11 million visitors. Now we know why they have short-term rentals. We are not, and we're not Anaheim because we don't contain Disneyland within us. So therefore, people do come to Santa Ana, but not for the reasons why some of these other places have gone down this road. Huntington Beach is similar. I'm sure Seal Beach is similar. If you have beachfront property, sure, these people you're gonna have to focus on the short-term rentals. I think enforcement is key. I think you've heard it from the two previous commissioners. How we regulate it, I think you get into private property issues when you start telling a homeowner that they can't do certain things. I think that becomes another issue we're gonna have to deal with if we're gonna make the primary resident be there, right? But when we talk about renting a room, they can do that now. They can rent a room. So I think this is not an easy subject. But a clear cottage industry has grown in Santa Ana without any regulations whatsoever. And we're gonna have to figure out a way to rein it in and give it some structure. And I look forward to a long discussion because this is not gonna be easy. Because the one thing I do know, and if everybody lives in the neighborhood, if someone is doing a short-term rental in their neighborhood, you will hear about it. Either on Nextdoor or someone walking their dog, you will hear, hey, what happened to that family? Where did they go? Why is that family there this week and then they're gone? So it does exist. And so we're gonna have to figure out how we're gonna incorporate it. It is gonna be a monumental task, but I'm glad we're taking on the task. And I'm glad other cities went before us. So we have some examples as to what to do and what not to do. Thank you.
Commissioner Wu?
Yeah, I'm surprised that there's 1,300 STRs in this city. I was looking for a place to bring all my kids together where I didn't have to clean up everything beforehand. Yeah, but I didn't like where it was in the neighborhoods that they are. So I'm for regulating it, and I love the research that you've done in comparison. You gave us a lot of options. I'm for limiting the amount of STRs in the city. I was thinking, but it might not be practical. So many permitted per district, but you know, not all districts are amenable to the market may not be there, you know. Now, however, what does this do for the type of people that are looking for family gathering, business travel people? I know when I go to other city, I'd rather stay in a home rather than you know, a hotel. Unless it's a resort. So I don't think we have any resorts here in Santa Ana. The regulating, I think, is going to be a tough thing. I agree with you, but definitely there should be some enforcement. If you have regulations, you know, we have to referee those that are permitted, that went through the process, and those that are just cropped up because they think they could do that. You know, so yeah, it's going to be a tough one, but you have outlined a lot of things for us to think about. But having standards helps, you know, in terms of cleaning, someone responsive to the cause. I know when I rent places, when I travel, I want whoever's renting it to me to know them, that they're available, and they're responsive to our call. Why isn't the garbage disposal working? You know, what happened to my water? You know, and stuff like that, rather than just being absent. You know, now what would it do to our neighborhoods? Should the neighborhood be notified as one way to get them involved in terms of, you know, monitoring and looking? I don't know. I'll be listening for some comments.
Vice Chair.
Thank you for the presentation. Having 1,300 STRs kind of makes sense because Santa Ana is just surrounded by all these cities that do have these attractions, and folks are looking for something more economical. But I think it's a lot. Putting some sort of regulation, structure, standards, I think that'll help solve the problem. But the way that it's written, the way that it's produced, the way that the city puts it together is going to be very essential for buy-in, very essential for folks to actually participate in this and not keep doing these like underground STRs. But it'll be interesting how we go about it. I look forward to it.
Yeah, I agree. You know, during the presentation, I'm thinking, you know, at what point is the juice worth the squeeze, right? Yes, it looks like the study shows that there is revenue that is generated via tax and welcoming fees, but the idea of generating a new department and a new task force and new infrastructure to support that And if the city comes out net, or even just, net zero, is it really worth it? That's, I think, a discussion to be had. And then, there's a lot of comments about the code being silent on STRs. So then that's why we have so many of these things pop up. But once we legitimize a certain portion of our cities to have these, then do we build out an infrastructure to shut down those who aren't legitimized? And then that, before we can just say, we know it happens, but we're not responsible for it. But now, since we're responsible for the infrastructure for some of them, do we build out a new code enforcement team that goes out just to spot out Airbnbs? And I work in the city, and I know there are a lot of other code enforcement issues to worry about, and other than to enforce the short-term rentals. So to me, the economics needs to make sense. Of course, I think that we need to support the residents if they think that the short-term renters will give them a source of income, but the economics of the city needs to come first as well. And then secondly, I'm not sure how this interacts with state and local JADU's competence, because my imagination is, let's say you convert an existing living space in JADU and then you Airbnb it. From my understanding, current JADU competence precludes the use of short-term rentals for JADUs. My understanding, I could be wrong, but I'm not sure how that would play well with us allowing short-term rentals. So there's something to look at. But I'm sure there's pros and cons to everything. Any other comments?
No, not at this time. I think you guys have covered a lot of the issues, and I do agree it's going to not be an overnight decision. Obviously, we do want the residents to weigh in also, and their comments will be coming, whether we want them or not. And as you can see, whether we decide to do it or not, people are going to do it. So.
Commissioner Escamilla.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to piggyback on the comments of the economics of it all. So yes, I do think that, we should, whatever this should be, I think there's definitely a revenue opportunity, but also with certain perils for the city directly. I don't know if we're looking at, or if there's any kind of discussions with other cities to kind of enter some sort of consortium model. So I know that a lot of the kind of enforcement and not the enforcement, but the tax revenue collection is really kind of done almost on a system by system basis, right? So with Airbnb, Vrbo, any of the others that are out there, so that we might require something that's a little bit larger in scale for kind of tracking, bad actors, because you could be a bad actor in one city and then hop over to another. We don't want to necessarily encourage permits there. So something that we might want to discuss, either at the League of California Cities or other appropriate locations where we can actually work with other cities to make it a little bit more cost effective to whatever way that we decide to go. I think that really, I see this actually done more in the library world, where you have certain consortia that basically work together to develop software that it fits a specific use case for particular library systems. And it might be worth looking into, just because we don't want to build the entire digital infrastructure needed to track, trace, and adequately police, ourselves, when we have the opportunity to maybe work with other organizations on a more holistic basis, either through the state or throughout the state or throughout the county. So just worth, I think, looking into, though again, a really long lead time to get anything started. But I think what's the saying is, the best time to plant an oak tree was 50 years ago. The second best time is today. So we got to do what we can today to hopefully kind of manage this. I don't think short-term rentals are going anywhere.
Commissioner Leo.
Yeah. The issue almost screams for an ad hoc somewhere to work with staff to come up with general guidelines, whether it's here at the Planning Commission or at the City Council, because there are community groups you're going to have to meet with. You're going to have to figure out a way to talk through the issues, because there's some people who want to use it as just passive rental income and they live in another state. There are other people who need it for revenue purposes, need it for income. There are others that just don't want to have a big house and they don't want to live by themselves. They rent a room. So I think it screams of like a group of people, an ad hoc, whether it's here or at the council, that starts to help you through those issues. Kind of talk through them and have days where people can come in and talk about their issues. We heard one scenario today. It's not the only scenario. So there, as I said, there's other cities that have gone before us, but it almost screams like a working group to come back to the bigger group to figure out what makes sense and what doesn't make sense for a city of our size, because we're a big city. And that's the other issue, right? We got different housing stock. We're a big city. We got a lot of folks that live here. And how do we figure out what's best for the city? It kind of almost sounds like you guys have done a great compilation of information, and now someone needs to call through it and say, okay, I've talked to Comlink, I've talked to this group, and then figure it out, because I don't know how else we do it. Because you'll get shot at from all sides. It doesn't really matter. So at least we can go through a process that is open and transparent to the public.
Commissioner Will?
Yeah, you know, I was surprised that I was hoping to find a house for STR for, well, in Floral Park. But I didn't find it. Found it in Washington Square in South Central. And I go, what? And I would think that there's parking problems there because we're all tight. These houses were built post-World War II, crammed all together, 2 bedrooms that turned into 3. There doesn't seem to be sufficient bathroom for me. You have a 4-bedroom house for only 1 bathroom. So I would be concerned, but you outline all the areas, and we'll flip a coin,
Vice Chair, closing comments?
So
At this point, it's a study session. We're still in the information gathering, and as some of the feedback that we heard tonight, there are a number of issues that the commission wants us to at least further explore, including public outreach, as well as a potential ad hoc discussion. So I don't anticipate this anytime soon, but we will start with some of the work so that we can at least look at how this process can begin.
Can you turn on your mic, Commissioner Will?
we are hearing complaints in the neighborhood of illegal because we don't have a process. So maybe it begs the question that with regulation, can we have, a better outcome in terms of the STR? We don't know.
Vice Chair,
No additional comments.
no comments from me either. Closing,
Yeah, sorry about that. I know we've already had a longer day than usual, but I feel like we're training for one really big night sometime in the future. I guess the other thing I just wanted to make sure to highlight was there was a particular case I think that did disturb me with short-term rentals where an older apartment complex was essentially kind of like bought out, cleared out, and then now almost exclusively deals with short-term rentals. So I do believe that is probably maybe one red line for me where if you do have individuals that buy out multifamily units that are supposed to be kind of full rentals and then effectively turn them into unpermitted short-term hotels, without any of the regulatory requirements and the missing tax revenue, along with all of the implications of the kind of usual issues that you have with hotels in residential neighborhoods. That I think is maybe something we would like to that would be up kind of my top tier. Like, yeah, we probably don't want to encourage that type of land use pattern to emerge. So I wanted to say that. And then also when it comes to the revenue, I don't know if we're tracking any of the use or if we can continue to collect data because I feel that we are owed a series of back taxes from 1,300 units. Just I don't know kind of what the regulations are on that, but I do feel that any kind of immediate tracking and assessment would be appropriate at the fastest possible timeline.
That does make sense.
Thank you, Chair and the Commission, for those insightful feedback. We took a lot of notes, and we will continue to keep you informed of the process and the next steps. In addition to that, if you have any additional comments or feedback that you would want to provide to staff, please feel free to email that to our Planning Commission Secretary as we complete our approach to this process. We'll certainly incorporate all of your comments into the report and when we come back to commission.
Any other final comments?
Just happy holidays.
Commissioners, any other final comments?
I'd just like to reflect also a very happy holiday, and also want to thank staff for all the hard work in this year. I know I joined mid-year, but I see the effort made by all of you, and I very much appreciate it, what you do for us. So again, happy New Year's to everybody, and happy holidays.
May Santa treat you nicely.
Commissioner Escamilla.
Yeah, just wanted to echo that. I thank you so much to staff, and especially for the wonderful charcuterie board that was presented. I know the members of the public didn't quite get to enjoy it, but for those of us up here and staff, it was really nice just to be able to kind of see everybody. I know that the department's transitioned since I was on it, but it is heading in a really strong, great direction, and just appreciate the work that the department has been doing over the course of the last year, and looking forward to 2024. But quite honestly, you've already done so much. I'm like, I don't even know, like, how are you going to do it all in the new year?
Let me ditto the comments on happy holidays. Looking forward to next year will be a fascinating year. We have those two large projects that are being worked on currently. The OC streetcar, don't know if it'll be done or not, but I know the cars are going to arrive soon. I also think that the city is having conversations on what it wants to be when it grows up, even though we're the oldest city in the county. And I think we're headed in the right direction. I've learned a lot from being here. The general plan has made things a lot easier to deal with. When I was here before, it was all spot zoning. And however they got the general plan done, you got it done. It makes for easier discussions. Some are not so easy, but it makes for easier discussions. And I really think we're doing the right thing when it comes to housing. I think we're adding housing for the residents and for new residents. And I appreciate staff because I know these things are not easy. You're trying to turn the ship in the right direction, and it's headed in the right direction. I greatly appreciate your work. So enjoy. Hopefully you get some time off. I know we're off because it's the 25th. It's the next supposed meeting. I don't know about you guys, but we're off. It's just so happy holidays.
Commissioner Will.
Yeah, I would agree with Commissioner Leo. In the old days, there was just a lot of arguing and fighting, and pick on the planning staff was easy. And I'm glad these days we have a very professional staff. You do your work well, you communicate well. I think the integration with neighborhood planning and advanced planning is really excellent. And I'm looking forward to see where that takes us, what we could do with that. So all the thing we asked for when Mark was here, I think you're starting to do it in a very quiet, administrative way. Thank you. And thank the staff that supports you to get it done.
Vice Chair.
Always appreciative of staff and the presentations y'all put together for us. Some of these things we just don't understand. So it's really great for y'all to break it down for us and just let us absorb, understand, and give our input. But yeah, I'm appreciative because we did talk about STRs earlier this year, and getting to this conversation, it's like, you're answering our questions. So thank you so much. And I'm happy to see just residents here being involved, being just active in our community. So thank you to everybody who came to today's meeting, and happy holidays.
Same here, happy holidays. And just two things I'd like to highlight. I think kudos to the staff, planning staff at the counter, always very informative, great customer service. So kudos to them as well. And then also, I want to highlight our city has started to digitalize the application process for both planning and building, which is great. And I think that will help the residents a lot. Other than that, happy holidays to all the commissioners, to staff, and I'll see you next year.